Today, my entrevue inspiration is completely different. Usually, I do interview with women to inspire women. But what about the man to inspire women? Yes, it does exist, and his name is Mark Hitchcox. Well, who is Mark? Mark is the designer, the creator, the artist of the 64 Project Can-Am. What is this project about? Well, all what I can tell you now, because I want you to watch the interview, this project is to celebrate diversity, inclusiveness, and the strength of women who are or were struggling with breast cancer. The project was done also in collaboration with the owner of the 203 Gallery in Montreal, Corinne Asraf. So it's like a group work. I love it. So Mark made me feel different about my breasts. It sounds weird saying it like this, but seriously, when I saw his art, when I saw what he has done, my way of looking at my breasts has changed. I love my breasts more than ever. I want to take care of my breasts more than ever. So, women, my message for you, actually Mark's message, Corinne's message, go get checked. Please, please, please. So let's go now and then see and watch this interview and listen to this man and all the messages he has to deliver behind his amazing work. So you are the artist and the creator of the 64 projects. And then before we start talking about the project, I would like to know a little bit about your background, so for people to know who you are.
Okay, my name is Mark Hitchcox. I was born in Portland, Maine to Canadian parents. I graduated from the University of Toronto with a degree in mechanical engineering, and for the last 40 years I've worked both in the engineering and IT fields. I retired in January of this year, and prior to retirement I had given consideration to building a project, and that project became the 64 Project Can-Am Edition exhibit, which is what is behind us. So that, in a nutshell, is who I am.
I've read that in 2015, I think, where you were visiting the museum, the art museum in Ottawa, that's where the idea came out, right?
The idea originally came following a visit to the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa in 2015. Shelley and I were there, and following our visit, we had quite a discussion about art, what it takes to make a piece of art that goes into such a gallery, and what it means to be an artist. And for whatever reason, that particular day, I think we had seen a lot of breasts, penises, and vaginas. And we decided, for some reason, the thought came into my head that I wanted to build something. And of those three items, I thought breasts were probably the best choice. And so I had this idea back essentially over 7 years ago to build what's behind me.
In 2019, I think.
And then, in 2019 is when Corinne first learned about this.
Okay, so we're going to see, Corinne, how are you involved with this?
I think you should tell them.
How did you?
Well, so the reason Corinne became aware of this project was she had purchased tickets for Shelley and I and herself and her boyfriend at the time, Brian, to see a play called Blind Date that was showing at the Centaur Theater.
Okay.
And the premise of the premise of the Blind Date is that the actress Mimi has been stood up on a blind date, and she's looking for someone to take her date's place, and she selects someone from the audience. And that particular day, I think with a little prompting with Corinne, I ended up getting selected, and for the balance of the play was on stage with Mimi for our date. During the course of the date, she had asked me about whether I had a passion project. And at the time, this idea had been kind of rolling around in my head for 4 years, and I thought,
he had talked about it for 4 years.
to no one else.
To no one else but me. And so I'm up in the audience, and you could see him thinking. And I'm up in the audience going, tell her, please tell her.
And so with that, I then proceeded to describe to her what this idea was in my head for a project that featured cubes, that included photos of women's breasts that rotated randomly. Well, as you can imagine, she was a little taken aback, because I think most of the people in the audience were
like totally quiet, going,
But
complete silence. Complete silence, because he's explaining it in detail, because he's an engineer, he's a detail man.
and so that's when you first learned about it.
And that's when Corinne said,
And
if you
in my mind, I was saying, you want to build cubes and take pictures of women's breasts. And in my head, I go, do I want to get involved with this? Like, I need to know more. So to answer your question, his story behind it was so moving and touching and so profound. The reason why is the reason why I accepted. So tell them the reason why.
Well, the reason in part I chose to do this is three generations of my family have been impacted by breast cancer.
Yeah, that's what I have read.
So my grandmother, my mother had actually 3 separate bouts of breast cancer. And one of my 2 sisters has also had 2 bouts of breast cancer. The first occurring just a couple months after she'd given birth to her second daughter. And then the second occurred just as that same daughter was about to enter her last year of high school. So there was an opportunity here to do something and then link it to a cause. At the same time, I felt that the mission of the installation, or the purpose, which was to celebrate women's beauty, diversity, and strength while promoting realistic body imagery, was in and of itself a good reason to proceed.
And how's Shaggy, your spouse, right?
Yeah.
How are you involved in
Well, just when he was talking about this, and I thought, you know, much more than the 12-year-old little boy that wants to see breasts, but then I thought, this is reality. This is what women look like, because when you think about it, most young women only see what's displayed on the movies, what's on magazines, sort of that unrealistic body type. And so they think that they're not normal. They think, and in reality, most women know most breasts are not the same size. They're not on the same plane. But when you see a magazine, they're perfectly symmetrical and they're perfectly right up front. And
but
that's
really
not who we are. And so as you get older, you have a more acceptance of your body. But I would love to put my mindset that I have now into the women who are teenagers and 20-year-olds going, you're beautiful no matter how you look. And this is an example of what real life is. And it is beautiful.
It is actually.
It really does, the courage of these women who agreed to be models humbled me. And that's what I said to Mark, because it's been sitting in our kitchen table for months now, so I've been watching boobs rotate for a long time. But
so the women's the breasts are the women's that we see on the wall.
Correct.
Part of them.
Yeah.
How did you get in touch with them? How did you?
Well, we had a couple different avenues to engage women to participate as models.
Okay.
So here in Montreal, Corinne was essentially responsible for reaching out to people. Alan Dahan was our photographer for Montreal. And then in the Burlington area, we talked to a lot of people. You were responsible for reaching out and engaging.
a lot of friends.
Friends and other people too. But we also had a wonderful woman, a photographer by the name of Hilary Doobie, who's located in Winooski. And Hilary, her business, she's a photographer, but she also does boudoir photos. And
it was serendipitous that we met Hilary, because she was not our original photographer. And when I did meet Hilary, because I'm one of the models, we instantly connected, because that is her mission in life, is to make women feel positive and happy about their body, no matter size, shape, and make them feel sexy and make them feel like they love themselves. And she has changed a lot of people. So when we sort of told her our mission, we just matched, and she was a big ambassador.
Unbelievable. I have to mention that getting involved with this project, you know, like I was in the box because I was calling everybody in, and my approach, you know, like usually I'm an art curator. I'm the owner of Gallery 203, and everybody who knows me knows that I do very diverse projects. But when I was calling people that I knew and I was saying, I'd really like you to get involved because this would really change the way you think of anything that's out there. And she says, what do you mean? And I would say, well, I'd like you to come in and see what I'm talking about. And then when I was telling them about the project, they were saying, you want me to take pictures of my boobs? Or you want Alan DeHaan that I know, you want him to take pictures of my boobs? I go, yeah, but you're looking at it as your boob.
Yeah.
What is a boob? We're born with two of them. We nurture them, we nourish with them. We have to take care of them because we need to continue living and have healthy breasts. So the message here, and I didn't even have to go on.
Yeah,
A lot of people said, yes, we all know somebody, we all lost somebody, we're all scared. I know that when I go for a mammogram, I'm okay doing the mammogram, but it's waiting that time period for the results.
Yes.
We all
And we
scared
all
till
we're
the
all
results.
scared.
Yeah.
We're all scared because, you know, we're here, you know, the time is ticking. You have to live every day. But you know what, this project, once people did it and came out of the room after doing the photo shoot with Alan DeHaan, I mean, this is our Montreal atmosphere once we did it. First of all, he was so professional. So professional. And them thanking him and thanking me and thanking Mark for the project and the opportunity to be part of this. Everybody was bawling. Everybody was crying. Every time I think about this project, I have a very emotional attachment.
Well, actually, it's a
to it.
very touching
It's
project.
very touching because this is like, wake up.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're here. There's situations out there. We have the solution. Go get checked. Go make sure you go get checked. Take care of your boobs. You know?
And do people get the message? Like, how was the first day of the opening here?
Oh, guys, you tell them.
I think it was really interesting to get people's reactions to it, particularly when they understood that the exhibit was not just the dynamic art installation behind me, but also the photos, and then on the framed posters, the words of the models themselves.
Yeah.
And when you read those, because each model had the opportunity to share as much or as little about themselves as they chose to. And it was from reading their words that you hear consistently how women, well, we had one woman age 25, another age 78, both, you know, made comment about how they were uncomfortable with their bodies. It was very interesting to see that even amongst that wide a range of ages, that they both spoke to having this feeling of discomfort with their bodies at a young age, and part of that was driven by how they compared themselves with what was portrayed in popular media, the movies, the magazines and such. I feel very fortunate that we had such a diverse group of women participate. Their ages ranged from 19 to 81. We had sisters, we had a mother, daughter, grandmother, women who had had breast augmentation surgery, breast reduction surgery, piercings, one nursing mother. Yeah, just really, again, mastectomy. So we had 8 women participate who were breast cancer survivors. One of the women who submitted her own photos, her reason for participating was that post-mastectomy, she had what's referred to as a aesthetic flat closure procedure performed. And she wanted women to know that that was an option, because with flat closure, there's basically just horizontal scars. And she, again, I give her so much credit for being so brave to not only submit these pictures, but to tell her story, and to with the goal of informing women that that was a choice. And in addition, she wanted women to know that they shouldn't feel any less a woman if they chose that
Exactly.
option.
But her best story was the same woman that she had fake breasts that she could wear if she wanted them. And she was at Mardi Gras. And at Mardi Gras, of course, you know, you show your breasts and they throw you beads. So they were yelling at her. So she went into her purse and had her fake breast and threw it. I love that one.
If they can have fun with that, then
yes, exactly.
kudos to her, you know?
Yeah.
Well, what an outstanding project.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Wow. And how long did it take to make the cube?
So
Now you're asking an engineer.
Yes.
The perfect question.
I would say the amount of time I've spent on this over the course of the last 2 years or so, it's probably 1,400 hours at least, if not more than that, between the design, the fabrication, all of the work that went into the wiring, the programming. So it was a considerable amount of time.
Well, just to give you an example, each one of those cubes is 3 different parts, and they were 3D printed.
Okay.
Some of them in our basement, but it would be, the 3D printer was in our basement, but he would get up at 6 in the morning to run down to start it, because it took 15
Well, it was 15 hours
per cube?
to print the 3 parts that went into a cube, and there was 32 cubes. So that's what, 480 hours of 3D printing time just for the cubes alone. And then they had to be assembled, and there were other pieces and parts that all had to go together to make this work.
And you had
But why 32 cubes? Is it you wanted to stop at 32? There's a reason why?
Well, it went back to when I originally kind of sketched out what this would look like. I had to consider how big would each cube be. I had to consider that it had to be an appropriate size for a space like this. But then I also had to consider that the installation itself needed to be portable, so it had to be something I could easily move. And I hit up with essentially 32 cubes times 4 is 128. Well, 128 breasts, 64 women, and
Exactly,
that's where the name came from.
And do you have sponsors? Do you have people that also help you with this project?
For the most part, I've done this on my own. I think going forward, we would certainly like to partner with
Yeah, that's what I was about to
sponsor.
ask.
Yeah.
Also, what is next?
So
Okay.
to answer that question is, this was the first pilot of the project. This was the first. So like a lot of people, like I do a lot of fundraising and everything, and our goal is to attach to a great cause this project. Okay, the visual part of it, he's delivering. The verbal part of it, he's delivering. Now the philanthropy part of it, what's good is that we're not going to be exclusive to one foundation where we see fit, right? Where we see fit in different cities where you're going to be going. It's always going to be an attachment to breast health,
Yes,
right? Because that's what the
definitely.
project's all about. So according to asking like who were the sponsors here, we were attaching to the University of Vermont Cancer Center, where Shelley works. And
Okay, I was
also,
about to ask why,
Yes,
because
right.
Shelley works there, okay.
and also to the Jewish
Jewish.
General Hospital, who I have an affiliation with them.
Okay.
That hospital being my hospital. So we chose those two as beneficiaries. As far as the sponsoring of it, because it was our first one, we just wanted to deliver the show. And we have, you could mention the one that did sponsor us from
Vermont, good friends and neighbors of ours that own Via Diagnostic. They did sponsor us for
Yeah,
the opening night.
for the
which was
opening
So the
night.
project was really welcome,
Yeah,
in
oh
the
yeah,
community.
really, really. And you know what, Montreal and Vermont, they've always been sister cities going back and forth. It's our friendliest American city.
Oh, I
You know,
thought I
it
didn't
takes,
know.
it takes an hour and a half. You have, first of all,
Yeah.
let me tell you something, if I may say. You go to Vermont, everybody there has a French background. There used to be French settlers there that became American.
Mm.
If you know what all the names there, okay, like I asked somebody, what's your last name? And she said Pelletier, I mean Pelletier.
Pelletier.
Pelletier,
Okay.
Pelletier is a
Pelletier.
French name.
Name.
So when I said Pelletier, she goes, wait a second, are you from Montreal? So there's that connection is already there. As far as our second show, I think we're gonna
Where will
go
we?
for, well, we will,
Is it the first show
This
here?
is-
So this
Yeah.
is the first show.
Did it meet your expectation in terms of visitors or
honestly,
sponsors?
I can answer that because I am the gal, I'm here full time. And all the tourists that came in from all over the world that were here, we're taking pictures, we're taking the name down and say, we really want to follow this. So it was very, very well received. But I have to say, that it was very well received by the men that were looking at it. The men were saying, yeah, I'm my sister, or my wife, or my sister-in-law, my grandmother, my mother. So I think the message of Mark Hitchcox is really thrown out there to say, wake up everybody. It hits us whether you're a man or a woman. Because, hey, you're here because of a woman. You know, the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
We don't know what came first, but you're here because of a woman. So, yo, kudos to women.
But
Take
there's a
care.
percentage, I think, where men also can get
Yes,
to
correct.
absolutely.
maybe less than women,
Absolutely.
but they can be involved as
Yeah.
well.
So the second show, it's really going to be like a road trip. I know a few people that want the show there. We're gonna head to Vermont because this is a big part of Vermont, and the sponsors will be according to the city.
Okay.
And now we have content because before it was new. So when I would call the sponsors, go send me the content.
Yes.
Well, I'm starting.
Now we start to know.
And now
start to
people
know
that
where-
I ask, they go, oh my God, yes, we will get involved. And I have to say thank you to the artists of Gallery 203 because there is a silent auction where we have over 18 paintings that were given 100% back to the cause, which is the 64 project, which we'll choose to give back to University of Vermont or the Jewish General
So
Hospital.
were they sold now?
It's still going on. We're
So-
going to be closing it. It was supposed to be closed November 27th.
Is it a silent auction?
It's a
or-
silent auction. There's bidding sheets, and I decided to extend it because there's a few people that want to come and see it. So
Okay, then if let's say people they can't come, so can they
I call them and I
buy?
send them. Yes,
Can they buy online?
Yes,
You have a website?
yes, we do.
Okay, so they can buy it online.
Yes,
But
and I'll send you the coordinates
Okay.
of that, so you can put it at the bottom.
Oh,
Your
wow.
screen.
Okay, that's cool. So Mark, what was the challenge facing building this dynamic cubes?
So there were a number of challenges that I had to overcome. First, coming up with the overall design, but then fabricating the parts itself, figuring out the electronics and how each cube would turn. Understand I have a mechanical engineering background that doesn't necessarily extend to the type of componentry that are included in the installation. So I had to do a lot of research to figure out what type of motor, how that motor would be controlled.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking. Since you are a mechanical engineer, is it easy for you to do this, or it's another, like, had to do
So the-
research?
Yeah, so the mechanical portion of it was relatively straightforward, although there again I was very fortunate. I spent some time at the generator makerspace in Burlington and was able to get some assistance with someone who was familiar with the use of their CNC router. So a number of the parts for which I needed multiple pieces were fabricated using that. So that was very beneficial to me to have made that relationship. But then otherwise, the selection of the components, the selection of the microcontroller, the Arduino that actually controls each of the cubes. That was something I had to research myself and prototype and go through a proof of concept to kind of demonstrate that it would work, not just short term, but for an extended period of time, remotely in a gallery like this.
And a huge shout out to his friend Tony Hoffman.
Yes, I was very fortunate. Tony is a friend, a neighbor of ours, who he actually, as a hobby, he flies radio-controlled planes. And he had a lot of interesting suggestions and ideas that were incorporated into the design of the installation, which was really very, very beneficial. So I benefited from his knowledge and experience. And also, too, he was the one who owned a 3D printer. And through his knowledge of 3D printing, we decided what parts could be 3D printed. And not only that, how they would be printed, because the design of a component can have an impact on how long it takes the part to be printed. And you want to be efficient with both your material and your printing time. So we were able to come up with a concept for example, the assembly of each individual cube that reduced, that made the printing of each part reliable and resulted in a design that was lightweight and strong and capable of being incorporated into the installation.
So that is true when you throw out an idea into the world, like when the student is ready, the teachers are there, they show up and then they help, and then like you get all the help you need because you have this idea and you're stuck to it and you're convinced this is what I want to bring out to the world, and then you had
people have different life experiences to then add to, and you sort of have a think tank.
But what's funny is that mentioning the idea, when Mark told me about his idea, I was listening to him and I was saying, all I kept on thinking in my mind is Hollywood squares, you would push it and another boob would come out, push it that way, another, but everything he explained, and I saw it, I went to Vermont and I saw the whole 3D print. It was the first time I really saw a 3D printer. I've heard of it, but I never actually saw it being done. The engineering part of it, like to the second, was done, and I thought my job was hard.
Well, there was
the
certainly
math behind
a lot of challenges, and but fortunately, each one, you're able to overcome it, and through a careful process, we ended up with I think a good design, and I'm
the
very
pictures.
happy. So the photos themselves, that was we were very fortunate. I had a very specific requirement for the printed panels that are affixed to each of the cubes. And I happened to meet up with Lizotte Camera, Jason Robinson, who's the manager of Lizotte Camera, which is located in Burlington.
Okay.
And I went to him with a very specific set of requirements. And I had previously gone to other companies who were supposed to do this type of printing. And they could do something close, but Jason was the first person who I spoke to, and he said, yeah, I can do whatever you want. And what was really nice is he worked with me to find just the right material for to print the images onto with just the right degree of reflectivity. I mean, it was just ideal. And I was very appreciative of someone who heard me out and said, no, don't worry, we can do whatever you want.
Wow.
And that was very, very helpful to have someone like that, responsible for really one of the most important pieces of the installation, because each panel had to look good. And between the professionalism of our photographers and the job they did printing them, I think the results really speak for themselves.
But even the cutting of the photos, because you think it would be easy to take a picture of a boob and put it on a cube. But
no, look at that way. We think it's easy, but I don't think it's easy.
But They had pictures. The photographers would take a picture of one breast and then the other breast, and then what we refer to as landscape, which would be a torso, of the breast. And then Mark had to. They would come into me, and then I would number them, and then I would send them off to him. So he just knows them as numbers. He doesn't know who's who. He knows me though, of course. But then how do you, so the first set, you were doing individual ones.
So part of the challenge was to crop the images that the photographers had taken. And the first couple times I worked with the individual photos. And of course what I was doing, sort of subconsciously, I was trying to line everything up. And then I would go back and look at the torso photo.
He did, and they were perfectly side by side. And then we look at the torso, and I said, "No, honey, that's not right. Because no woman's breasts are like this." And so now he had to figure out how do you line it up so that you get that
whole thing.
the dimension of maybe not being perfectly. And so you.
Right. So I then switched to identifying kind of a workflow, a process where I'd work with the torso photos, get them sized appropriately, and then very carefully crop the one image and then slide my window over to ensure fidelity. So that, and then I would, as a second check, compare the two photos side by side against the torso photo to ensure that things matched, that they were the center was.
And where you see that one, the woman that has the tattoo, the scarab beetle, the tattoo on her chest.
Yes.
She's not lined up here yet, but But so when she lines up, you see the tattoo.
I saw it. I think a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So that's when you know that he got it. He got it right. That how they lined up.
And you know what? It's funny. I'm listening to you. I never realized that if you're cropping the picture, that the other one's lower. You have to like raise it up and then crop it so it goes with the, but not change the image.
But not change the dimension of it. It was not an easy feat, and he figured it out.
Right.
Yeah. So that was interesting, and I think he did a good job on that as well.
But while you were doing all this amazing project, did you get discouraged in some way?
Oh yes.
You said,
No,
He would wake up at 3 in the morning and go, "What am I doing? Oh, this is gonna be ridiculous. What am I doing?"
I said that, so I can imagine that.
No, there was definitely times when I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and think, this is either the best thing I've ever done or the single most stupidest thing I've ever done. And it's interesting, one of the women who we met throughout this process is a woman by the name of Moxie Blue, and her story is actually featured in 2 of the posters. And Moxie Blue is a burlesque performer from Seattle who had, we saw a couple years ago perform at the Vermont Burlesque Festival. And what was unique about her was that she incorporated into her burlesque routine her experience with being both diagnosed and treated for breast cancer, which is not a typical burlesque performance. And we actually had the opportunity to meet up with her and her daughter, Pat Smear, who was also a burlesque performer, back in April in Burlington. And we were able to meet up and had lunch. And I mentioned to her that this angst I had about waking up and just not being sure whether this was the right thing. Well, she also, besides being a burlesque performer, she also produces shows. And she said to me, "Oh, that happens to me all the time." And what was so great about her story is the reason she chose to get into burlesque was following her breast cancer diagnosis and following her mastectomy, she decided that she didn't want to be defined by her scars. And she and her daughter both at the time enrolled in the Seattle Burlesque Academy. And now she is doing very well for herself, is very well known, both as a performer and a producer of shows in Seattle. And in fact, she's coming back to Vermont in January for this year's Vermont Burlesque Festival. So it's an event, it's likely one of it is my favorite event of the year in Vermont. If you have not gone to see a burlesque performance, it's a lot of fun.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
So Corinne, are you satisfied with?
I'm more than satisfied. I'm touched, I'm satisfied,
Wow.
I'm
I
curious to
bet
see
so.
where this will go. I'm 100% in this. I can't thank this man enough for delivering something where he honored women in honor of your grandmother, mother, and sister. You've done the job. I give you an A+.
It is really an outstanding.
It's outstanding.
Yeah.
It is outstanding. And Shelley.
And it does touch you. And
It
that's what
does.
I said to him with it sitting in our kitchen table for so long. I said, I don't think you quite realize what you've got
What's
here.
here.
Oh yeah, it's
Because the
something
more
really
you
good.
sit and watch it, the more it really
Every
does
day I
affect
see
you.
something different, and I'm not even
Exactly.
looking at breast. I'm looking at survivors. I'm looking
Yes,
at power.
yes.
I'm looking at empowerment. I'm looking at so much, and you will
And
see.
the art.
And
also
the art,
behind all this.
the art, the curation, everything about it, the thought process, the words, the written words, the chosen written words that were shared is something incredible. I want to add to one thing, Shelley, you're like my sister from another mother. I love you so much. Thank you for being with this man and giving him and having such an open mind for letting him create this, because there's not a lot of women that are going to come home and say, my husband's lost it. He wants to take pictures.
Well,
He's retired.
I did say
He's,
that, but
he's retired and he wants to take pictures of women's breasts. So,
And then I'm
wow.
really touched, and now I have another look. When I look to breast now, I have a different,
what did I tell you on the phone?
yeah.
I told you you have to come and see it for yourself, because people tell me, please explain it to me. I said, no.
No, you have to come and see it.
You
You,
have to
guys, you
see
have to come and
this.
see it.
Yes,
In order
you have to come and see
to
this.
see the
And
beauty
you
of
know
it.
what? It's going to be on till December 4th, or maybe longer.
December 4th,
Because
also you have time.
We could do this, right?
Wow.
And the next one will be in Vermont, right? We're working on it. And Toronto. And we're going to go, it's Can-Am, Canadian American. So we're going to play ping pong. Montreal, Canada, Vermont, America. Toronto, Boston. You know, and then we'll go back and forth.
But I'm seriously, I'm really touched. And then I'm thinking about my breast, and then I love my breast now more than ever.
Yes.
No
Oh
matter.
my God, so you did it.
So
you did it. That is,
And then I
true.
see something now deep. Seriously, it's a magic.
Yes.
Because I've never looked at breasts like this, and then I feel now mine, whatever gonna
You're-
happen to
you-
me.
They
Yes.
belong to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
They belong to you.
Oh my
They-
God, I
your
got almost
stomach
tears
is-
in my eyes.
I know, and
How
that's
touching.
exactly what it does. It changes you. It changes you.
C'est
It
un cadeau
does.
de Mère Nature. It's a gift
Yeah.
from Mother's Nature.
But this is a gift for me. I'm so blessed now
Thank
to
you.
be able to be sitting now with
She's getting
Oh,
you as a
wonderful.
creator, Shelley, Corinne. Oh my God, I have no words, to say, but thank you very much, seriously, for this.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank
Sharon.
you
Thank
for
you,
for coming in, and thank you for sharing your kind words. It's seeing people react to this
Yeah.
like you that really makes me feel like all of this was worth it.
Yes.
Seriously, if you look at me in the camera,
Yeah.
I have tears in my eyes because this is the first time I see this beauty, and then it touches my heart,
It does.
right to my heart.
I
Wow.
wanted to mention something, and you could cut it out or leave it on. Being Middle Eastern, we're always told to cover ourselves
Yeah.
and everything, and
Mhm.
we're not allowed to show parts of our bodies and everything. But knowing that there's a medical background to this and an engineer background to this, and the breast, I'm not even going to say boobs, because boobs is not deserving enough for what I'm about to say, is that a project like this has to be aware, has to be put out there in every country. And every woman who has nurtured that political man or political views or everything, this project, Can-Am, belongs to everybody. every color, every race, every religion, every rule, everything. Why? Because we are mothers.
Yeah.
And that's the project. And that's the message out there. There's no rule, there's no tag. It belongs to everybody. There's no country. Wherever there's a woman, this belongs to them. And power to the women.
See reality.
And you see, like, if you look at, like, you see every situation here.
Yes.
Every color, every shape, every reason. Because reason and situation is not the same thing. Every solution. These women are living today. And they're living today, one, because they took care of themselves, or two, they took care of the problem. And they're here to speak about it and share it. So, again,
How proud, Mark, you are.
Well, I
Of
think
yourself.
obviously the goal is going to be to go to countries and,
yes.
and
Oh,
do
there
one in
you
each
go.
country.
There you go.
Why not?
Si Dieu le veut. Yes.
Oh my God. We'll go together.
Yes, yes.
Yes. There's this is the vision.
Because we need in
You 100%. There's
In
know what's
such
going
countries.
you know what's going on out there, and you know what, this has to be either televised or exhibited, because it's a project to be shared.
It's a blessing to have this project, especially in Lebanon or in all the other Arabic countries.
All the Arabic countries and all the countries. In all
the countries, yeah, definitely.
In all the countries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, so it wasn't easy. But I did have an event. I had an art exhibit for Alec Bélanger, who's one of my artists that I represent in Gallery 203, and there were such beautiful people in the room. And I think I was missing about six artists. I need six people. I needed 6 women to take pictures of their breasts. Because I had a few lined up, but a few of them backed out, maybe because of timing, or maybe just wasn't the right time, or they were too shy to do or whatnot. So that night, I would go up to people that were in the vernissage, and I said, hey, by the way, how would you like to be part of an incredible project that's going to be next month? And would you let me take photos of your breast? And they would go, you what? Come again? And there was music and everything.
It's not
What
a
did you
usual
say?
question.
Right, it's not a usual question. I said, of course, I'm not the one taking the photo, but is it something that you would consider? Well, what is it for? The minute I told them what the project was for, he goes, I'm in, daughter and mother, right away. They're friends, can I do it too? I had like a lineup. And it's like,
So the way you approached them, I guess,
Right, but you know what?
changed the whole...
whatever happens at Gallery 203 stays at Gallery 203.
Okay, so what is this, Mark?
So here's a couple of examples of the parts that were printed with a 3D printer.
Okay.
This is referred to as a motor mount. And again, this is something that went through a couple of different iterations of design before we came up with the optimal design that minimized the use of materials and printing time. And then this is a spare cube that we had printed just in case we needed the spare. But there are 3 parts that go into this. The total printing time to produce the 3 parts was about 15 hours. And then these pieces themselves are held together by 4 carbon fiber rods that give them strength and rigidity. And then, in addition, incorporated into the design are these magnets that hold the printed panels in place, because to the back of each panel we've affixed metallic tape. So that way we can change out the panels if we need to.
What is one of the design challenges?
So one of the design challenges was to decide what to do in the event of a power outage. Now, the likelihood of a power outage is pretty small, but it could still happen. So we had to come up with a way to figure out how to return each cube to its home position before the program started. And so what we ended up doing, I came up with a design that incorporates a small reed switch that detects the presence of a magnet that's built into each cube. So in the event that the power were to go out, before the program starts randomly turning each cube knows to go to its home position.